Hello all, welcome back to CSharp Simplified. My name is Satvik, and in today's video, you're gonna create your first game using CSharp, which is gonna be a number guessing game. So without wasting any time, let's begin. First open Programmist, which is a CSharp online compiler, and then remove the extra codes which are not required like these console.writeLine. Now let's begin. First write console.writeLine bracket exclamation mark. Welcome to the number guessing game, because this is gonna be a number guessing game. Now write console.writeLine, guess the number correctly within the allowed attempts to level up. You can also write guess the number, it will work because the user has to know that they have to guess the number. But I'm gonna write it full, guess the number correctly to go to the next level. There are gonna be 3 levels in total. One for there would be 1 to 10 numbers and the user has to guess the number in 3 turns. The second is gonna be a level in which there are gonna be 1 to 100 and they have to guess it within 6 attempts, and the third 1 to 100 but there are only 3 attempts, so it's like an impossible level. So now write the code. So this play level 1, 1, 10, 3 means that the level 1 has a range minimum to maximum of 1 to 10 and the max attempts are 3. Now do the same for play level 2 and play level 3. In level 2 the range is 1 to 100 and there are 6 attempts. In level 3 the range is 1 to 100 but there are only 3 attempts, so this is like a really hard level. Now it's time to write other codes. Write console.writeLine. You have completed all levels, well done. So this is an end, like when the user completes the game, this is a pop-out which they are gonna receive, and along with that write console.writeLine, press any key to exit. So if the user presses any key, they would exit the game. Now this is gonna be a really hard part, and this video is gonna take lots of time to create, and this is a really advanced step which we are gonna do. Now create a static void and write it as play level and give the values of int level number, comma int minimum, comma int maximum, comma int max attempts. As you can see here, in play level there is 1, 1, 10, 3, and in static void it is the same. So static void play level bracket int level number. So it was 1 in the like in the play level 1, 1, 10, 3. So for example, int level number, comma int minimum, int maximum, comma int max attempts. Yeah, that's it. So it means that the level number means which level is being played, minimum means the smallest number, maximum means the largest number, and max attempts means how many guesses are allowed. Now initiate the random number. So write random, R capital, and then random, in this the R is small, equals to new random and bracket. In the next line now, so in this random, the capital one is used to generate a random number, and now in the next line, int number to guess equals to random.next. In this random.next, minimum comma maximum plus 1 is used to generate an integer from minimum up to but not including maximum plus 1. Example, next 1, 10 plus 1 gives the number between 1 and 10. Now write int attempts. So now it's time for creating the game variables. So attempts counts how many times the player has guessed. So if the player has guessed 2 times, then it would count 2. And now write int user guess equals to 0. So user guess stores the player's input. So if they have written 2, it will store 2. So the user's guess was 2. Now bool guessed correctly equals to false. So guess correctly tracks whether the user has found the correct number or not. That's it. That's the part of preparing the game variable. Now it's time to display the level info. So write console.writeLine $. I'm gonna run this before uploading because I'm gonna check for errors. As you can see, I don't think any of these make sense at this time, except nothing makes sense because the semicolon would be added after console.writeLine, which I will add, and the dollar sign is of use. Write /n level bracket curly one level number together colon guess a number between bracket minimum curly bracket minimum and maximum. So the user will know that the number is to be guessed between the minimum and maximum. If the level is 1, the minimum is 1 and 10. So the user will know that they have to guess between them. Dollar before the string enables string interpolation, which allows inserting variables directly, like level number which has been added. Also, now write one more console.writeLine dollar sign. You have bracket, which is string interpolation, max attempts, and then outside write attempts, because the user will then get to know that they have, for example, 2 attempts left or 1 attempt left, and they would play accordingly. Now write while bracket, wait a second, while bracket attempts is less than max attempts. So a while loop repeats as long as the player has remaining attempts. Each time each guess is done, then the attempt should reduce, and until it reaches 0, the while loop repeats. Loops basically. Now write console.write enter your guess. So the user would guess the number over here. Now write string input equals to console.readLine. So it asks the player for the guess and reads it as a string input from the keyboard. So the input would be a string input. So the user would, when the user would write it, the console will read it using the read line. Now write if bracket exclamation mark int.TryParse bracket input comma out user guess bracket and bracket over. It checks if the input can be converted to an integer. So the user input which the user has given, whether it can be or cannot be converted to an integer. And then we are also going to write console.writeLine, because if it can't be continued to an integer, then this would be an invalid input. So we have to ask the user for an valid number. But before doing this, I am checking for errors in the code, which is a really important step personally, because if we check for errors in the code before completing the code, it helps us to be more efficient and accurate. So wait a while till I check for errors in the code. Now write console.writeLine bracket invalid input dot please enter a valid number. So if the input is not converting to an integer, it would tell the user that the input was invalid. So the user would have to change it. Now write attempts plus plus. So the code attempts plus plus shows that the increments of the number of the attempts after each guess. So after each guess, the attempts increases. So that's why attempts plus plus is really important in the code. Now I do think I forgot to write console.read key because it is really important over here, because the console will read whether the player has pressed any key before closing the console. So that's why console read key is really important in the code. Now it's time for writing if, else and else if. If you don't know what that is, I recommend you to click that I button on the top right corner and it will take you to the video in which we talked about conditions in C Sharp. So let's write that if bracket user guess is less than number to guess, the console will print too low, guess a number higher than this. So when the user gets a number like 2 and the number to guess is 10, so the console will print that the number is too low, guess a number higher than this. Now we are also going to write else if user guess is greater than number to guess, the console is going to print too high, guess a number lower than this. So let's write the same thing but in else if. Now we also need to write what will happen if the user gets the correct number. So like if the number was 10, let's take the previous example, and the user guessed 10. So for writing that, we have to create an else. So we are going to write else console.writeLine $sign. So the dollar, like I talked about, is string interpolation and helps connect the values. So in this we are going to write correct you guess the number in bracket curly bracket attempts. So the user will know that they guessed the correct number in the number of attempts. So that's how we will write that. And then we also going to write guessed correctly equals to true and break. Yeah, so it marks that the number was guessed correctly and breaks out of the loop. So it goes out of the loop. Now type console.writeLine $attempts remaining dot bracket max attempts minus attempts. So these will come under the curly bracket. So this will show after each guess and display how many attempts are left. So as the max attempt in the level 1 are 3, and after the first attempt it will show that there are 2 attempts left, because it will minus 3 minus 1. So it will show 2. It will do it in the back end. So now we are talking about what will happen if the user didn't guess the correct number. So exclamation mark guessed correctly. So it's like a boolean, and it shows that if the user didn't correctly guess the number, it is gonna print using console dot write line dollar out of attempts the correct number was. So this will also show what was the correct number, and then it is also gonna write console dot write line game over. So if the player didn't guess correctly before running out of attempts, this will show the right number and end that level. Now after I ran for errors, there are few errors, so let's solve them and then let's try the game once.